Hello and welcome to Developer Insights. I'm David.
And I'm Justin.
Together we are the leads on game development and design here at Codename.
We also founded Codename too.
We're going to be your hosts for this episode and every episode.
Wow, that sounded dark. When we're not here, the show doesn't happen.
Every time.
Anyway, today is our 97th episode. And I think this might actually be our last 2-digit prime number episode.
Are you sure about that?
Well,
sure?
Well, now I'm not.
Sure? Oh, well, it is.
Oh, phew! You had me scared for a second there.
Well, that's what I'm here for.
Really? You're here to scare me. I thought you were here to answer development and design questions about Idle Champions.
That's just a secondary purpose. Primary purpose is to scare you.
Okay. Anyway, we are here to answer development and design questions about Idle Champions and scare me, apparently.
But if you don't ask any questions, you may have to suffer through Justin's one-man reenactment of Babylon 5's main story arc. Hey, I love Babylon 5.
Yeah, I haven't seen more than 1 or 2 episodes, so it might be a little different from how you remember it.
That's okay. I can help you out. I've seen it like half a dozen times.
In that case, if you don't ask any questions, you may have to suffer through David's one-man reenactment of Babylon's 5 main story arc.
Shoot, I've been tricked.
Haha, gotcha.
As always, we have pulled some questions forward from the previous show that we didn't get to, so we'll answer some of those while we're waiting for new questions to come in. But before we get to those, I do have some updates on items that we have flagged to get looked at by the dev team. So without any further stalling for time, we're going to get started with those. Okay, top of the list, I do have items here on the fixes and new features list. Some of them I did mention last week, but they haven't gone out yet because they are still on Mark's working branch. But the first item here, which is a new update, is that now that you are able to open 1,000 chests at a time, we have taken a pass at how many you can buy at a time. So that additional UI there is going in. Again, it's still on Mark's working branch, so I'm not 100% sure when that's going to get pushed out. But I think he bumped that up so you could actually buy 1,000 at a time. So that's an improvement there. Additionally, on that working branch is the option for default character appearance to be included in the random skin selection, hiding the bottom UI, a display for showing the area-based enemy health. That's actually going to be in the Bud voiceover, and sorting order in the shop by price. So those items are on Mark's working branch. We will get them eventually, but they are done, which is great. So that does make the remainder of the list a little bit smaller because we do still have quite a few items on the in-progress list, and that includes making it so that season champions do not appear in the free time gate choice, making sure all systems have hotkeys, confirming that the areas have proper distractions assigned to them, preventing a kicked player from just rejoining the trials lobby, having the favor display not just be in ID order, an option to sort by slot on the blacksmith contract screen, increasing the number of blacksmith contracts you can use at a time, placing the current day on the seasons dialog, having distraction timers persist from one area to the next, adding amount arrows to the selection for buying chests. I don't think Mark did that on the one with the up to 1,000, so I'll have to make sure that gets done. Tracking achievements in the quest tracker, and adding a second exclamation point that is colorblind readable to the adventure party display to show that a party is at the goal. Boy, it's quite a list. Okay, looks like we got nothing for announcements, so on to questions from the previous show. I see you've gone ahead and pulled these forward because I know I didn't look at those.
I think we had like 3 or 4 at the end of last show that I specifically called out as like, you, we're going to answer your questions next time, so you better show up. So hopefully these people are here.
All right, well, you've called them out if they're not, but they won't know. First question is from Loopy79. And they ask, in regards to the question you answered earlier about more choices for the 3 champ patron chores, could you not just make it fully random? Pick 3 slots in which at least 1 patron usable champion exists, then pick 1 patron usable champ for each of those slots. Huge variety that way, and no manual updating required.
Yeah, good question, Loopy79. I see you there in chat. Welcome back. So the answer to this is one of the things we've tried to do with the current crop of patron chores is kind of show off different kind of champion combinations that we think could be pretty decent. So there's a lot of affiliation combinations there. There's a lot of kind of different powerful kind of DPS champions to build around, and then some good champions that go with them. And so I think by switching the thing to be kind of fully random, it would just be just a random set of champions. And I think it would feel more like chores and less like a place where you could potentially discover new combinations of champions you could use, which is what it's kind of intended for. Now, admittedly, a brand new player is going to find more value in finding those combinations than someone who is deep into the game and already knows what combinations they want to use. But that's kind of the intention of those combinations in the patron challenges.
Okay. Next question. This one is from Gauntlet Blade, and they ask, can Electrum chests be reworked to prioritize filling the empty slots of champion equipment? I hate opening an Electrum chest and getting duplicates when I have champs missing multiple commons, uncommons, or rares.
Yeah, so this is a question that we've gotten before, and I think we've answered in the affirmative in the past, and I think that continues to be our answer is we'd like to make this change, especially as we get toward the collection dialogue as it nears completion. I guess nears is a relative term, but it nears completion. And one of the things that you'll want to do for the collections dialogue is to actually get all of those missing cards. So if you got the common or the uncommon, or if you didn't get the common and uncommon before you got the rare, your odds of getting the common or uncommon are quite low. And the reason for that, I guess I can expand on this a little bit for people who are maybe newer to the game, is our chests are actually quite they're quite giving. I'm sure there's a better word for it, but they will try and always give you upgrades. And one of the things that does is it means that they will prioritize upgrades over, they prioritize upgrades and they don't prioritize empty slots. As soon as you've got like an uncommon item in a slot, chests are no longer going to prioritize giving you the common item for that slot because you've already got a better item for it. So yeah, it's something that it makes it more difficult to get those rarities that you missed. So I think, yeah, having Electrum chests potentially be the way to fill those out. Obviously, I think we would still keep them as generous as they are. It's just if you were to open one and you don't have any upgrades that it could give you, it would then start to fill out that stuff. So once you basically had rare or better on every single champion, at that point it would go back and start to fill in some of those commons or uncommons that you might have missed. Next question here is from our favorite multiple animal, Meow Arf Moo, who asked, are there any plans for a plain and basic overview for the map/levels? I find navigating through the maps to find a specific level or adventure overly difficult. It would be nice to have the option to view a simple list of the available adventures and their variants.
Yeah, I like this idea. I know we've talked about on stream before about having some additional options when you click on the area selection that is something like a go to X area or back 5 to forward 5, something that's better than just sort of the navigation that's there currently, something a little more sophisticated. Being able to have sort of a view.
I think they're sorry, just to interrupt you. I think they're talking about the campaign map. Not
sure? They're in the chat. They can qualify or
yes,
clarify.
I'm pretty sure they're asking about the campaign map and being able to find adventures and variants.
I see. Please basically read the map levels.
Yes. So I switched it to from level to adventure halfway through when I was talking about it, because I'm pretty sure what they're looking for.
Right. Okay. Yeah, I mean that's a question. I mean, that's something I don't think that we've discussed at any point.
What does the console UI look like? Doesn't it have more of a list? Or did we just let you?
I know
at one point we were talking about doing a list, but did we just change it so you just kind of mouse around the map?
Yeah. I'm not 100% sure on the console, and I'd have to take a look. But that's certainly. I mean, I'm not opposed to that from having especially once the map gets a little bit more complicated. But,
Yeah, me too.
Okay, next question. This one is from Dawn1366. Asking, are there any plans for a buff overview? Like a screen with the current party formation on screen with arrows pointing each respective buff for each champion. This would mean a lot of arrows, but it would make it clearer to read who buffs who at any given time.
Yes. So this is a really interesting question, and this is something that this exact kind of thing is something that I would like to do at some point. Maybe not with all the arrows pointing all the time, but like when you mouse over a specific champion, being able to see basically their outputs and their inputs. And I think we've talked about kind of quality of life updates to just the main screen before on this stream, and this would definitely be one of them. Just a way to more easily see where buffs are coming from and where buffs are going for a given champion at sort of on demand. You can kind of do it right now. At least on the non-gamepad UI, the champions have a little circle around them, and they have little icons in them for each formation ability that's kind of outgoing or ingoing, and you can mouse over those, and I think it will show arrows as to where each of those abilities is going individually and where they're coming from individually. But you have to mouse over every single one of them, and they're really tiny, and the more of them you have, the tinier it is. So it's just it's not fantastic, and it could definitely use an update similar to this, so you could sort of see where your buffs are going and where they're coming from.
All right. And the final question left over from last week is from Doozy9, asking about collection window. Is there any chance it will contain a bestiary as well?
Yes, there is a high chance it will contain that, and that is one of the ones that we have designed, and I believe has already been at least partially, if not fully, implemented. Yeah, there'll be a bestiary or bestiary.
Yeah.
We kind of debate over exactly. I don't really care how it's pronounced. Let's debate it in chat for an hour. Anyway. So yes, there will be a place to see all the monsters in the game, and we're planning on being a little bit cheeky about it and only showing monsters that we know for sure that you have seen. So you would need to have completed an adventure past level or area 50 in order to have the creatures from that adventure show up in the bestiary. And so yeah. It'll be a fun adventure to try and fill out your bestiary or bestiary or goodstiary or least worstiary or your monster manual to 100%. But I guess one of the things, so just to expand on that I guess, one of the things you will be able to do with that is you'll be able to filter by certain tags. So you'll be able to find all beast monsters or all undead monsters or all fey monsters or whatever, or say a beast boss. You'd be able to filter by that. And then you'd be able to click on that one and it would tell you what adventures you can find that monster in. So it should make it a little bit easier for those times when we do, say, a season quest to find a certain, or to defeat a certain boss a bunch of times, or a season quest to defeat a certain type of monster. You'll be able to go through quite quickly and find a place to go farm those. So hopefully that'll make that stuff easier too.
All right. And with that, we're on to the questions from this week. First question out of the gate was from Library of Akasha. Asking, could you please change the legendary level 1 cost to be locked at 500 scales instead of increasing 100 per equipment? If you didn't know, there is a minor and tiresome legendary dismantle reforge exploit, which I think everyone knows now.
Well, now they do. You just talked about it on stream. So yeah, we are aware of this exploit where you can get all of your basically. The way it works, I guess, for people who are on stream watching is you can just, when there's a legendary dismantle going on, which happens at the beginning of every season for 3 weeks, you can craft a level 1 legendary, then dismantle on that champion, and then you'll get a level 1 legendary potion, which you can then apply to that champion or another champion, and basically get those level 1 legendaries for a little bit cheaper. I don't know if I feel like it's worth it to kind of try and close up that exploit or not. But it's one of those things where we purposefully moved a lot of the cost for legendaries to upgrading instead of the initial crafting. So I'm not super broken up about it. I don't know about going and changing the legendary cost to be fixed and not having it go up, because I don't know. It's not really a big deal. I'm not sure it's worth spending the development effort and design effort on making a change there. We'll see. I think we'll definitely take a look at that kind of stuff when we do the trials changes, and just make sure everything lines up with whatever the new scale balancing, if that changes at all. So we'll see.
Okay. Next question. You want to read that one, Justin, I think?
Oh, yes. Yeah, sorry. The next question here is from Library of Akasha as well. And they ask, could you please display the questions on the bottom of the stream under your names for people to read? I mean, there's plenty of space.
I suppose. Let's see.
Yeah, there's lots of space down there. Honestly, I think that's the challenge with doing that is it's just a lot of extra management work during the stream. Okay, and yeah.
Yeah, let's see.
That's large.
Yep.
And also above. Now that's too small.
Right there. How's that?
Okay. Yep.
Okay. Yeah, I think the challenge with that, there's a couple of challenges with that. And the first one is that, there's management to it. I think there are ways around that, but I think the additional issue with that is that sometimes the questions come in with typos or spelling mistakes and that sort of thing. And it's not really something we want to highlight in terms of just copy and pasting that in. And again, sometimes we also only answer part of the question or we edit something slightly. So there would be a little bit more a sort of overhead involved in doing that. So yeah. Okay. Next question. This is from Emote. When you get to the trials changes, could you please allow us to open the lobby for the next trial starting immediately after Tiamat is dead? Well, it's really presumptuous of them. And not just let it start until every member's 6-day timer is up. Collecting everyone after that is more of a hassle than it needs to be when everyone could just join before then. Yeah.
Maybe. The design of trials, the redesign of trials, I think is going to be a sec, I have to cough. The redesign of trials is going to be, I think, a little bit more extensive than folks are thinking, and I'm not sure if this will be pertinent once the changes are all in. So I think it's a good idea. If we were keeping trials, I would be like, yeah, that's a good quality of life update. But I think for now, I'm going to say that I'm not 100% sure that this will be relevant once we get the changes in. But that could also change because the changes are right now just a Google document with a bunch of this would be really cool kind of stuff. So no promises on not making any promises about what trials are going to be post trials changes.
All right. Next question. This is from Random. Are the discounted items suddenly different between platforms? I've seen confirmed screenshots of others being able to claim Dragonlance Ox Ventures bonus chests for owning it for a long timer, 12 days or so. Well, it never showed up discounted at all in the same period for the CNE launcher. I believe this was around the 15th.
Yeah, I don't know the specifics of this. I know that, yes, sometimes the discounted items do vary between platforms. Oftentimes that is because we've moved. There's like a platform that we just couldn't get the sale data in on time, and different platforms have different kind of rules for when we're allowed to put things on discount and how we're able to do that, and whether we have to tie it to an existing sale or stuff like that. So there is a fair amount of variety between those. With that said, we do try to keep everything even. We try to make sure that if something goes on discount on one platform, even if we can't get it at the same time on another platform, that we will still have it there. So if something got missed on the CNE platform, then that was likely a mistake, and I can reach out to our producer and see what happened there, see if there's a specific reason it got missed, or if it's more likely it just got, like, we just misclicked the platforms that the promotion was supposed to be live on.
Okay. Next question. This is from Emote. Could you perhaps change the psychomorphic 7-day potion description that incorrectly claims it buffs all Modron endpoints? Because as far as I'm aware, it only buffs damage, HP, and gold nodes.
Yes, that is a good point. It definitely would not be buffing like speed or level cost or monster HP ones, because we found that when we buffed those, we broke the game. So those ones definitely should get, or we should look at that and make sure that that is as truthful as possible, given the limited amount of space that we have to write a description in there.
I think maybe accurate as possible would work. It's not like it's
accurate.
It's not.
No,
lying.
it's lying. Did I not tell you our psychomorphic potions are sentient and yeah,
right?
They're powered by ChatGPT. No. Yeah.
Wait, ChatGPT is sentient?
Shh.
Okay. All right.
It's a secret.
Moving on. Next question. This is from OG17. Upcoming characters are always visible before release through affiliations and same slot shop art. But when people ask about it, it's considered a spoiler. Can this policy change so that in-game things aren't spoilers? Or can spoilers no longer be presented to the users?
Yeah, so this is a good question. I think our preference would be that spoilers are no longer presented to the user. This is another one of these kind of platform issues where I guess just getting into the specifics of why this happens, for like the affiliation thing, it'll be because we generally have upcoming champions sort of hidden, so their data doesn't get sent back to the client. But we, when we are, what's the word for it? When we're getting DLC approved on certain platforms, it needs to award the things that it says is in it, which in some cases includes champion unlocks or champion skins or stuff like that. And those only work on those platforms when the data is being sent back to the client. So we need to kind of half send it back to the client in those cases, and that causes things like it showing up in the affiliations, or in the same, the champions in this slot in the shop. I think we can address that, and that we could probably remove the affiliation tags, or put them into like a 14th slot or something, or a 13th slot, so they wouldn't show up. But it's honestly, I think it's just extra work, and the chances that it would lead to some bad data getting out when we don't want it to are higher than just having it kind of for a short period of time show up in those places. So I think we'll continue to try and think about ways to solve that so they don't show up. But for now, it's just kind of an artifact of working with the platforms.
Okay. Next question. This is from Meow Arf Moo. When the new collections update happens, will we be able to apply blacksmith contracts in bulk? Currently, we click on one type, apply X number of those, click on the next type, and repeat. It would be nice to be able to click and apply all types of contracts.
Yeah. I don't know that a change like this would need to be linked to the collections update. We're doing sort of updates on the game all the time. So, like Dave kind of spoke to at the top of the show, we got a bunch of stuff that's going out in the next push or is already out. I'm not sure. I was highlighting questions and not 100% listening.
It's on Mark's branch. It's not out yet.
Yeah, so that'll come out pretty soon, and something like this could be something that we could include as one of those quality of life updates. I'm just trying to think of how we would potentially do that.
It feels like it'd need kind of more of a application dialogue redesign to be able to switch between which type of contracts you were using.
Yeah, like instead when you click a type of contract, select the amount, click apply, then you pick the champion, and you click go, and I think it would have to be kind of, you click on a blacksmith contract and it pops up the blacksmith contract application screen. Which that would be a little bit more work.
I think you'd pick a champion and then you'd have a bunch of contracts available and you just drag them on or click a contract and apply.
Maybe you could just drag the number of levels you want to apply just based off the contracts you have or something.
Yeah, it feels like a redesign of that system.
Yeah.
So probably not something.
It's a priority. It's not a low hanging quality of life update. It would be a little bit more involved. Not super more involved, but a little bit more involved.
Okay, next question. This is from OG17. Taunt feats have a 400% damage bonus when most tanks aren't DPS. Is this changing? Assuming these feats are shared across characters, it'd make more sense to give health, overwhelm, or DPS all, much like how the non-enemy heal feats are self-DPS instead of DPS all.
Yeah, this is a good point. I think, and I've talked about this with the design team, with myself and the other designer here. I think moving forward, we're going to try and make sure that that the kind of specialist feats, the taunt feats, the immolation, the anti-heal, and anything else that we do like that, have primary bonuses that are that make sense for the champion they're going on to, as opposed to just being static across the board. So we'll end up having taunt feats with global DPS, as well as maybe for a DPS tank like Archon or Warduke, we could have still have that damage taunt feat. But for support tanks, we would have a DPS all taunt feat.
Okay. Next question. This is also from OG17, asking, reforging keeps the old mechanic where doing more than one a week makes the price and cooldown spiral unsustainably. Is this needed? Reassigning legendaries doesn't refund scales or time from lost reforges, and you still need to pay for new reforges. Reforging multiple characters can take months to get effects that work with your DPS, especially when items might take several attempts. Could this have a static price, even if higher, or could the price revert much faster?
Yeah, this is a good question. So for folks who don't know, sort of the way that reforging works is if you want to change the legendary bonus that's picked on a piece of equipment, you pay a bunch of scales, and it picks from one of the other kind of one of the other 6 options, so out of 5 options, and then that cost goes up. I think it doubles, or maybe it goes up by 50%. I can't remember what we did. And then over time, it'll come down every few days or every week. It'll come down a little bit. And it is intended to be something, so if you want to get the exact right effects on your champions, the exact bonuses that will work really well for you, that it is something you have to invest a decent number of scales into. It is kind of the end game process. You get all your legendaries, you level all your legendaries up, and then you refine your legendaries for exactly the bonuses you want. Now, do we have that price balance and that time investment balance exactly right? No, I don't think so. But it is our intention that even if we go in and tweak this stuff, that getting your legendaries to exactly the bonuses you want at level 20 be something that really takes a long time. And so I think we'll try and find a way to, when we revisit that system, we'll try and find a way to maintain that high cost, high time investment process, but maybe make it a little more deterministic, so you're not kind of stuck. People who get very unlucky could be bouncing back and forth between two bonuses they don't want for weeks and weeks and weeks. And I think finding a way to make it more deterministic, so you can get to the bonus you want. It's just going to take that time or that or those scales to get there.
Okay. Now here's an interesting question. This one is from Garwar, asking, what is the next new system or system update we should be expecting to go live in the game?
That is a good question. So I guess the next system update that we have coming out is a system update for seasons that I don't think we've talked about anywhere yet. I think there's a blog coming out at some point once we've kind of confirmed that we're going to be able to get it out on time. But we are adding an additional type of quest to seasons, so that people can kind of farm up some more season XP and get more bonus tokens, or get further on in the season on the reward track if you need to. So there is some stuff coming there. In terms of when that's coming out, we are hoping that will come out in the next week. But literally, before this stream and after this stream, I myself am personally doing code to try and get that done on time. So we will see whether we get that out next week or the week after. But that is sort of the next system update that we're planning, that I wasn't super prepared to talk about on this stream, but hey, you asked the question, so I guess I'll talk about it. And then after that is collections. So
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Next question. This is from the Mad Mallard. Might you ever allow completed variant replays for no rewards? Do you think that encouraging players to not complete content to leverage variant mechanics and penalizing players for completing content by removing opportunity is good or bad as a game mechanic?
Yeah, no, this is a really good question. I think you kind of hit on the nail there of why we're kind of reticent to allow completed variants to be replayed. Is there are some variants out there that are just better for farming, for leveling things up, for doing X, Y, and Z, and we would really like we design stuff around sort of free plays, and we don't necessarily design stuff around how our player is going to be able to exploit one of the 900 variants in the game in order to do this faster. And I think by explicitly allowing for variants to be replayed, we open ourselves up to having to think about every single variant in the game when we're designing things, to make sure that there's no ridiculous exploit that makes it that makes it too overpowered or too ridiculous. So there's kind of that temporal kind of aspect to variants right now, where you do them and then you've done them, and we don't have to be super careful about the kind of crazy stuff that we do in them. Whereas if we were leaning towards allowing those to be replayed, then we would. And the fact that there are some that players will then purposefully not finish in order to be able to exploit some of those mechanics is it's a challenge. It's not a good thing for the game, I don't think, especially if people feel like they're missing out by having completed that thing. But I think I think not having them be completable right now is the better of two not great choices.
Yeah, it definitely seems like it gives you the ability to be more sort of do crazy or more creative things with them, knowing that you won't have to. It's that you're not sort of. They only get to do it once.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're limiting yourself if you make it so that they're repeatable. Limiting sort of the crazy fun things you can do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Maybe one thing we could do, if it's because it's the temporality of them. Like, we don't want you to be able to do it over and over and over again. Like, maybe there's an argument to be made for, some sort of super rare token that you can trade in to redo an individual variant for no rewards, but it's not something that you can just do over and over and over again.
Not until you get an exploit to get those super rare tokens over.
Until there's an exploit to farm those tokens or give yourself 1 million tokens or whatnot. But that's, potentially there's an opportunity there. I'm not sure.
All right.
Every time we release a new patron, you get to redo every variant once. So there you go.
Looks like it's giveaway time, Justin.
It is giveaway time. So it's our world famous. Oh my gosh, it's well past giveaway time. It's our world famous, stream famous. Well, it's not really famous at all, but it's our 42 gold chest giveaway. And the way this works is very shortly, the CNE Games user in chat will speak a word, and all you have to do is copy and paste that word, paste it back into chat, hit enter, speak that in chat, and you will be entered for an opportunity to win 42 chests of your choice. It can be, if you win, you can pick what type of chest you get, and we'll give you 42 of them. It can be pretty much any chest in the game, except Gloria Bahamut chests for some reason. And you could go for gold chests, you could go for silver chests, I guess, if you didn't want as much loot. You could also go for an individual champion chest. You could get some gold Briv chests. You could also go for season chests. You could get some gold season 5 chests. You could ask for season 6 chests. You wouldn't get them until season 6 starts, but you could ask for that. So good luck to everyone. Welcome to our first time chatters. We're entering for the first time, and hope you all win. Well, not hope you all win. Hope one of you wins. One of you will win. All right, I don't know what I'm saying. Yeah. Let's just move on to the next question.
I say I, for one, am really fond of the transparent aluminum chests. So
yes.
That's the chest, you win. That's the one to get. Mm-hmm, it's not quite as good as the platinum chest or the gallium chest or, the arsenic chest, but still pretty good.
Doesn't sound like you don't want to handle that chest.
You wear gloves. It's fine.
Yeah, all right. Okay. Next question here is from Dunkarn, who asks, sometimes you don't want one or more ultimates like Nerds or Havilar. Could we get a feature to block the familiars to auto-activate some ultimates? And actually, I have an answer for this.
You do?
I do have an answer for this.
Okay.
But you can give your answer, and then I will say why we're doing something else.
Right. So this is a question that has been asked sort of on a regular basis, certainly because having familiars on the ultimate bar that change the form of a champion is never sort of exactly what you want it to do. But it is something where we haven't had a good way to actually set that up so that, and this is where Justin's answer is going to come in. It's not going on the collections dialogue, though. That's for sure.
It's not going on the collections dialogue. But you know what? We were in a design session. We were looking at a certain champion that has this issue, where there's a switching of things when you use your ultimate, and we figured it out. And it was actually a very simple answer. And I'm actually quite embarrassed that we didn't think of this before. But the solution we're thinking of is, since it's on a kind of per champion basis, where this makes sense.
Put a lock on the champion?
No, we're gonna give these champions feats that stop roaming ultimates or roaming familiars from activating their ultimates, and so you can turn it on and off with a feat.
Yeah, that could work. It could work. Yeah. Cool. Well, there we have it.
Yeah.
All right. Then in that case, next question. This question is from Randrem. In relative timeframes, will the alchemy shop be before, after, or written alongside with the Trials rework?
That is a good question. We haven't really slotted in where we want to do the alchemy shop. And actually, I had a good discussion about the alchemy shop a couple of days ago, and And the idea, there were a couple of extra ideas that came out of that discussion. So I think I'm going to expand on what I designed before. But at this point, I think it's really going to depend on sort of what our developer resourcing is. I feel like it was probably not before, but sort of at the same time or after are kind of the two most likely ones, I think. I don't know if you had any thought on that, Dave.
Sorry, I was highlighting questions. Say again.
Do you have any thoughts on when the alchemy shop might appear in the game?
I mean, the alchemy shop does feel to me like potentially a smaller update than the trials rework. So it is possible that that's something that, if the design for that was fixed, that could slip in before it. But it really just depends on how we end up prioritizing those.
Yeah.
Okay. Next question.
Next question here. This is actually a question or feedback from Alpha Kroll, who says the mic is getting lots of stomping ? Noise, noisy neighbors. Perhaps you should get some sort of shock mount for your mics, or if it's table mics, just get a mat or put something soft, or get something soft to put underneath it.
Yeah,
these are shock mounts, right? That's what these exist for.
I don't know that there's a shock mount on that. The mount built into
maybe
these,
they don't. No, you know what? I'm hitting the table next to me, and I can hear it.
It's not a bad idea. I mean, I think the noise that you were hearing earlier is actually the noisy neighbors. But it's not what you would think. It's they're a countertop shop, and they have granite slabs on giant mechanical rollers on the wall to my left. And when they move them around and they come to a stop, it just makes it a giant thud, 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 thud. And so that's, I think, is what you were hearing. But yeah, it may not be a bad idea to add something additional here. It's typically not a big deal, but every now and then, yeah, we hear the neighbors. But I think that was early on in the show, and I think it stopped at this point, probably for the last 20 minutes. So I think we've been pretty good, but that's what that is.
Cool.
Anyway, next question. This question is from Kieran. Any plans for a new patron in the near future?
Yes, we have been talking about this on the design side a little bit for the last little while, and we are planning a new patron in the near future. So very near future, well, not near, very near future, but at some point. When are we? We're in September right now. I always forget what month we're in. Yeah, I mean, I could see it coming out before the end of the year, but it may also be a little bit longer. But yes, we do have a new patron in the plans. I think we've got the champion restriction worked out for it. There's just a couple of other things we need to work out for it, and I think we've talked about it in the last 2 or 3 episodes. So potentially there'll be some answers there that'll have a little bit more information.
Okay. Next question here is from Double Motherless. There's a comment here for Justin, so I'll leave that. Question: what about skins? A place to list them all instead of go character by character, or at least character by character without needing to pick it up.
Yes, so I think this question is in relation to the collections dialogue. So, and I believe I'm pretty sure I put a skins collection in there, which sounds kind of morbid now that I'm saying it out loud. But yes, there will be a way to go and view all of the skins that are available in the game, and see what percentage of them you have, and search by champion and filter by various things. So yes, that will be a thing that you can go see in the game. Alpha Kroll is saying call it outfits instead of skins, and we did call it outfit at the very, very beginning. We were talking about we should call it outfits instead of skins, and then we all just defaulted back into calling it skins, and that's what it got implemented as. So that ship has sailed.
I don't think it's a big deal.
No. It's pretty standard, nomenclature for video games.
Yeah,
so.
Might be a little too sensitive.
Well, it depends. I mean, you get your skin torn off and applied to anyway. Next question here is from Garwar, who asks, any truth to the rumor that the new collections rework is going to be called Garwar's Guide to Everything in Idle Champions?
Whoa! Spoilers! Just no spoilers.
Asking for a friend. I mean, it depends if the sponsorship money comes through, Garwar. So open up that bank account and send them.
Oh dear. Oh, no.
In that case, we're still looking for a sponsor, so it could very well be the Pepsi Kleenex Guide to Everything in Idle Champions, depending on who can send us the money first.
As long as it's not the Meow Arf Moo guide.
That would be awesome.
The pronunciation on that, I think, would be difficult for people.
No, I'm open to that.
Even though the icon kind of draws itself. Okie dokie. Next question. This is from Eldion. Can we get an adventure that puts as many of the monster manual and adventure creatures in one go? The Baldur's Gate Zoo.
Yeah, it's kind of it kind of goes against the idea of the collection dialogue where you have to go out and try all the other adventures to try and find all the monsters. So probably not, but maybe after you've completed your sort of your monster manual in the collection, we could unlock something like that, and then you could go see them. You can't just look at them in the collection dialogue too. So I don't know. Meow says, make it a variant so you can only do it once. I see you, sir.
All right. Next question is from Fogpizcalzo. What? All right. Anyway, the next question is, will the bestiary show also which zone the enemy appears? At least when filtered enemy appears only in one zone, like a specific boss.
I'm not sure if we're going to have that in there. So one of the funny things that happened when we were putting this data together for the bestiary is we found out that there are giant rats in between 65 to 70% of the adventures in the game. They are just everywhere. Like Faerun has a horrible rat problem. And so the developer was putting together was like, hey, do you want to show all the adventures that that monsters can appear in? Because there's these couple types of monsters that show up in literally like 700 different adventures, and the list for that would like go off the screen and then scroll for an hour and a half. And so I think adding in then the zone or the zones that that monsters appear in would just add to that horrendously overdone amount of data, and would probably be too much. Kogan 7M says just do bosses. That's a possibility. It is something. So some people might know when we do a season blog along with it, and one of the things we do in that season blog is have a little area that sort of talks about creatures and terms that are referenced in the quests, and we do call out individual bosses that are referenced in the quest and tell you what adventures, events, and areas to find those in. So I could see doing that, but yeah, I think for the base bestiary when it comes out, it'll just have the adventures and not the zones, and maybe that could be something we can add to later. I think the thing about the collections dialogue is when it comes out, I think it'll be a great opportunity for community feedback and for us to find out sort of the very specific things that you guys are looking to get out of that, because we're kind of doing our best guess of what we think would be useful for players. But you take something like that and you put it in front of tens of thousands of players, and all of a sudden it becomes very clear what the general population is after. So I think the first version might not have that, but I think if there's enough sort of call for it in the community, it could be something that we add in after. Let's see. The next question here is from Clay Anthony, who asks, is the current plan to always have back-to-back seasons? What was the thought behind that change versus a couple weeks of downtime?
Sure. So the current plan is, yes, to continue with having back-to-back seasons. One of the main reasons behind the change is that we were seeing quite a bit of reduced engagement during that time. So less players active, less players completing basically every aspect of the game during that period, and so that's sort of bad for the game in general, because sometimes players the less engagement means they leave and they don't come back. And so certainly from our perspective, it made sense to just sort of keep that engagement up, do anything we could to make sure that there wasn't a case where players are like, all right, I'm done for now, and then forget about the game. And yeah, so I mean, I think that was sort of the primary change there. I don't know, Justin, if you had any other insights on that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it was really interesting to see kind of players' feedback to doing back-to-back seasons, because we were also kind of sitting back and we were like, I think some people will not like seasons back-to-back, and some people will want the downtime, and some people will be okay with it. And I think in general, sort of across the board, most people were pretty good with it. I think sort of a higher percentage than I thought were like, yeah, this is great. Like, I love, just always having something to do. So I think that was good. I was very nervous about doing it without any downtime, because I also kind of my first impression was people would like some time to breathe and recover after working really hard on a season. But I think what we've kind of found on that was players would finish the season in like the first 70% of it, and then actually have that time to breathe for the last 30% of it. And so by giving them extra time after that, we weren't actually giving people time to breathe. We were just giving people time to disengage.
Yeah. I mean, that's true too. There was quite a drop off after about it was about 70% through week 6 or 7. Any player who'd just sort of been really gung ho was done. Yeah. And then that was, and then they were just literally, they weren't waiting 2 weeks in between. They were waiting the 4 weeks that was left in the season plus the 2 weeks. So
good question.
Cool.
Next question is from Grayscale Does, who asks, does Background 2.0 still have a planned release? I'm a newer player, but I just learned no speed champions work offline or in background parties and was sad.
Yeah, so I mean, a lot of rework did happen to the offline progress to make it work a lot better than it was working before. I'm not 100% sure where sort of the very specific features, or the very specific abilities, specifically the speed abilities, are in terms of having those things implemented, because I know Mark was looking at that, and I know that Mars provided him with a list of champions that needed to be looked at for that, but I'm not actually sure where that list got to in terms of getting those implemented, because for those specific ones, they actually on a per champion basis needed to have something put in as a heuristic to handle that, just because of the way that the offline progress works, because it's sort of jumping ahead and then checking how far you can progress and then jumping ahead and then seeing how far you can progress. So those abilities kind of have to be approximated rather than sort of easily calculated. And again, they're on a per champion basis. So I can certainly check in and see where that list got to. But as far as like Background 2.0, I think I don't know that we really sort of called it that. I think it was the offline progress sort of rework, which did happen, which did fix a lot of the issues with offline progress. But the actual like speed champion pieces and some of the other abilities too that are specific to a champion still potentially don't work in offline progress. I don't have a fixed list of which exact abilities those are.
Yeah, there's also something where we have to be very careful about that for even like some season quests. Like I know we got questions last week about why doesn't this season quest work in background progress, and why doesn't this season quest work when I'm offline? And it's all because the way that progress is executed, it sometimes just doesn't count certain abilities.
Because it can't just like simulate your whole time off. It actually sort of has to figure it out by jumping around, jumping ahead, seeing if you're still progressing, taking big time chunks at a time. And when you take big time chunks at a time, the small granular stuff has to be sort of either calculated if it can be, or approximated if it can't.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'm going to do one more question here. Can I answer this one here?
34?
Yeah.
All right. This question is from Star Chaser 43, who asked question 34. Interesting.
Is interesting.
Will the new trials continue to be asynchronous, cooperative play? Or are you planning very extensive changes?
Yes, this is a good question. And again, I want to caveat all of my answers with regards to new trials to say that new trials right now is just a design document. We haven't finalized any of the plans for that, and everything is basically just exists mainly in my head. But the redesign, as currently redesigned, does still include asynchronous cooperative elements, but also now does include some single player elements as well, and fishing. Doesn't include fishing. That was a lie. Or does it? I don't know.
You keep saying that we're going to include fishing.
We better just include fishing.
Yeah. Okay. Do you think we got time for this last one here, or? Yeah, we do.
What is this? This doesn't seem like a me question.
No, it's totally a you question. All right, we can make it a purple question.
Okay.
This question is from Gortus, asking, can loading a formation set the current Modron's automation to that formation, and or vice versa? And I guess sort of the reason I pinned that for you, Justin, is I don't think that actually makes... Is that something that would make sense to want to do? I feel like it's not. That by loading a formation, you'd be changing... You wouldn't want to sort of implicitly change what your Modron was set to.
Yeah, I'd have to think about this one a little bit more, because I mean, I could see the use case of, like, you know, you've got one of your parties that is, you know, doing some farming on a free play, and you've got certain champions in it, and maybe you want to switch out the champions in it and use a different party, or be able to use those champions in a different party. But it does feel like it's a little bit non-intuitive in terms of how Modron automation is set up. Like, all the Modron automation right now happens through the automation dialogue, and so having this happen outside of that dialogue, I could see, unless there was like a very explicit way in which it was done, I could see that being fairly confusing for players who didn't know that it would function that way.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm not 100% sure how we would implement that. It also, the spec choices could be another thing that would be a little bit funky. Like, if you hadn't chosen spec choice, like formations don't have spec choices associated with, like save formations don't have spec choices associated with them unless you do it in Modron automation. So that could also be a little bit of a funky thing. Especially if you hadn't gotten to certain specialization choices yet. So I think there's a lot of questions about something like this, and I think it would require quite a bit of thought on our end before we'd commit to
Justin,
it one way or the other.
Before we close off, I know I saw in the chat here sort of a question that was Dark Zenith was talking about a question he asked that didn't get answered, where they asked a comment on that. This is over to R.A. Salvador's Cleric Quintet. I don't know. Unfortunately, I'm not familiar with those, and I don't think Justin is either.
Yeah, I didn't highlight that as well.
We didn't answer it.
Because I wasn't sure who those characters were.
Yeah.
And all I could speak to was, yes, we love bringing in lore characters from books and stuff, but I don't know if they've been considered at all.
Yep. Sorry about that. All right. Nick, that's it? Nope. That's all we've got time for.
No questions.
No more questions.
If we didn't get to your question, don't worry, you'll have another opportunity. We will be live again at this same time next week. Before we sign off, though, we'd like to thank our tireless mods. This week it was Mars and Gabe. They're the two folks who copy your questions into our questions doc and generally make things awesome in chat. So thanks to both of you.
And of course, thanks to all of you for hanging out, watching the stream, asking such great questions, and for enjoying the game. Without you, no one here would get to do what we do.
And we like what we do.
All right. Enjoy the rest of your afternoon, everyone.
Bye.
All right, Justin. How do you make an elephant float?
How?
Well, you get 2 scoops of ice cream, some root beer, and an elephant.
Okay, now walk me through the next step.
You mean like pouring them into a... No. It's too far. You've ruined it.